Conspiracy theory.
Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring. Not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates.
You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday,
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 9 o'clock. This is Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Mark Dolan. All the latest from Tory party conference as we head live to Birmingham and our very own Patrick. Look, there you go. He's got a pint on the go already and he'll be joined by some of the biggest names in Conservative politics. Down in one, Patrick. Brilliant stuff. How about this? Take a look.
He was absolutely furious with me. It was really uncomfortable.
Yes, as Freebie Gate rages on, is Sir Keir Starmer fit to be Prime Minister? We'll hear from both sides on that in our head-to-head. Expect sparks to fly.
I didn't do anything wrong in that room. That courtesy wasn't extended to me. It's just simple as that. And it could have been so easily, because there were pockets of moments when that did happen.
A crisis for the BBC as the scandal hit Strictly Come Dancing apologises to one of its biggest stars over abuse allegations. We'll bring reaction to a situation that has rocked the corporation. Is this show one or two dance moves away from being axed?
I wanted somewhere safe and quiet for my son to do his GCSE preparation. I needed it to be secure because of the situation we were in.
There you go. Is it game over for Labour? Have they already lost the next general election? Meanwhile, Harry arrives in the UK today, the 7th day in a row without his wife Meghan. Is there trouble in paradise? I'll be asking legendary former newspaper editor Kelvin McKenzie. And on my panel tonight, Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and former chairman of the Conservative Party, Sir Jake Berry.
Currently, my options are Tom, Cleverly and Kemi Badenoch.
Yes, in my monologue at 10, you won't want to miss this. I'll be dropping some truth bombs. As they gather for their annual party conference, the Conservatives are in total denial about the threat of Nigel Farage and Reform UK. Here's a question for you. Would a young Margaret Thatcher support this modern Conservative Party today? Would she even choose to lead it? I'll be answering that question at 10, and my answer may shock you. So much to get through. We'll find out how Patrick is getting on with that pint straight after the headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Mark, thank you. Good evening. It's just gone 9 o'clock. These are your headlines. The Foreign Secretary has responded to reports that Israel is launching a potential ground assault on Lebanon, with troops reportedly positioned for an incursion. Meanwhile, Reuters is reporting that Hezbollah has attacked Israel using a ballistic missile. It comes after the Lebanese Prime Minister has said that 1 million people have been displaced as fighting between Israel and the terror group continues. Mr. Lamy has spoken with his US counterpart, Antony Blinken, and reiterated the need for a ceasefire.
We both agreed the position that we had at the UN last week, that the best way forward is an immediate ceasefire. I have been urging since coming to office in July for British nationals to leave Lebanon. Notwithstanding that, of course, we've sent a rapid response team. 700 troops are in Cyprus. We will do all we can to assist people to get out, and we have secured places on commercial flights that are flying tomorrow so that UK nationals can get out.
Now back in the UK, Tory leadership contender Kemi Badenoch has now said that we should find a way to make life easier for those who are starting families. Miss Badenoch was speaking at an event with the Conservative Women's Organisation and said people are scared to have families. This comes fresh off the back of comments she made over the level of maternity pay being excessive. Miss Badenoch has since gone back on this, saying her comment was part of a longer discussion.
I think maternity pay is quite important. And this was actually a long discussion we were having about the role of the state in deciding what businesses should do. We need to decide who's going to be leader of the party. Not the left, not the Guardian, not the BBC, just Conservatives. I was interrupted as I was answering a different question. The point I'm making is that if we lighten the burden on business, they will be able to help solve these problems, rather than what Kate was asking me, should the government increase it, should the government do this or that? There is too much government already. Things aren't getting any better. Maybe we should try something else.
And in other news, former This Morning presenter Philip Schofield has blamed his brother for his departure from ITV, saying he was fired for someone else's crime. His 54-year-old brother Timothy was convicted in April 2023 of 11 sexual offences involving a child, including 2 of sexual activity with a child. In the final episode of Channel 5's Castaway, Schofield revealed he would never in a million years decide to return to daytime TV. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Well, I've got some home truths for the Conservative Party at 10. You won't want to miss it. But Patrick Christys is at the GB News party at Tory Party conference in Birmingham. Patrick, what are the vibes? What's the mood like out there in Birmingham?
OK, all right. So, look, just behind me here is where the actual conference proper is, and everyone thinks that's where the real action takes place. But it's not, because if you follow me, we're under a lovely little walkway here. This is going to be rammed full of people from, doors technically are at 10 p.m. But let me give you a little preview, OK? So this is going to look radically different in about half an hour's time. We've got the bar area here. My pint is waiting for me, so that's great. Thank you very much. Cheers for that. Hello, mate. You all right? There's going to be a big buffet in here. I think we can just see where the old buffet is going to be. And if I bring you on round here, we've got the best in the business are going to be doing the entertainment for us tonight. It's Bell and Sperling. How are you, chap?
How are we, Patrick?
Good. What's on the set list tonight, then?
Well, what is on the set list?
Well, obviously, we wrote the Sven-Goran Eriksson years ago. Yeah. We wrote that song.
Patrick was a big fan.
He was a big fan of that, wasn't he?
Still am.
Good. I love that. So we might do a little bit of Sven, but we're going to do a load of sort of Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder. Get this party going.
Get this party going. So this is going to be absolutely chock-a-block from about 10 p.m. It's going to be spilling out all the way around here as well. We are expecting all 4 Tory leadership candidates to make an appearance, as well as several people from the shadow cabinet and some top media figures as well. But just to get the party going at the moment, anyway, I am joined, of course, cheers, by the wonderful Robert Halford, former Education Minister. How are you?
Yeah, very good. I'm loving conference. Actually, I think there's a bit of a vibe this year because it's exciting because, you know, you've got all the leadership candidates. You know, it's quite a good atmosphere.
I'm going to ask you straight off the bat, if that's OK. Who are you backing?
So I genuinely haven't decided yet. I want to wait to see them on the platform on Wednesday, see what they say. What is their platform? Because a lot of people have said, we know what the problem is, but I want to know what their solutions are. So I think I think each of them have got really good qualities, and so I'm going to make up my mind by the weekend.
Well, there were a lot of undecideds actually in the conference hall today. Some of the big issues doing the rounds are whether we should be in or out of the ECHR. Your thoughts?
So I'm in two minds about it, because I think Kem is right, where she says let's work out what our immigration policy is and then move that into the next stage. So it may be absolutely something we need to do in the future, but let's work out our immigration policy first. I also think we just got to be very careful. We don't promise the world straight away, because we've got to rebuild trust with the public. Because the reason why we didn't get in, we could have promised smothered an apple pie. People weren't going to vote for us because they didn't trust us.
OK, and the other big thing that's doing the rounds today, again, is the threat of reform. How on earth do the Tories silence Nigel Farage?
Well, look, we've absolutely got to win back reform voters. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But we've also got to win back millions of former Conservative voters who voted Labour and Liberal. I mean, Labour are doing a good job in digging their own, problems with all the freebies and cutting the winter fuel allowance for pensioners. But nevertheless, we've got to remember that millions of people voted, so we've got to appeal to both sides of the party. We've got to set out our values. What is it to be a Conservative? Achievement, aspiration, opportunity. We've got to restore trust. We've got to have a Rolls-Royce campaigning machine. And I want to see the candidates set out what they're going to do, not just diagnose the problem, but what they're going to do.
Absolutely. And just very finally, look, you've got here early, and thank you very much. I'm just wondering if we can just do a bit of a cheers here. Are you going to be bang up for this GB News party then? From about 10 p.m, it's going to be chock-a-block.
This is the Great British Bash. This is going to be the best bash of conference. I mean, I'm very lucky to be here, and I'm so excited I came here an hour early.
Yeah, good stuff. And just chaps as well, cheers to you all. You got here very, very early. I mean, so not technically on the guest list, but hoping if they hang around long enough, no one will ask them to leave. You love to see it. That's straight out of my playbook, that. So look, we're going to have it all tonight. Like I said, some of the Tory big hitters, a lot of good fun media types as well, and the main event as well, Bell and Sperling, they're going to be performing. So it's back to you in the studio. A heck of a lot to go at. Cheers, Mark.
There you go. Enjoy that pint, Patrick. We'll catch up later in the evening. Patrick, live in Birmingham from Tory party conference. But here's a question. Can the Conservatives ever win back power? Let's get the views of tonight's top pundits. Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and former chairman of the party, no less, Sir Jake Berry. Sir Jake, can the Conservatives form an overall majority again by themselves?
Yes, absolutely, we can. I mean, the first thing is, I'm really pleased to be on this panel, but I'm missing the best party at conference. I've come back to London, especially to talk to you tonight.
Look, that's it. We're going to have a party here tonight. Although it's a bit sober,
we party hard. Can we win back a majority? Absolutely, yes. This conference is about the Conservative Party being Doctor Who-like and regenerating itself. And that's why we're hearing from all of the candidates, all four of them brilliant Conservatives, about how they can take the party forward. But we do also have to accept that unless we unite the right of politics in this country, unless Reform voters and Conservative voters and former Conservative voters who stayed at home and people who didn't vote come back together, we are going to be stuck with a Starmageddon forever. We have basically an elected socialist dictator in this country who's got such a big majority he can do whatever he wants. And what he wants to do is take £1,500 away from pensioners over the next 5 years, seeing them literally freeze in their own home. And people want to see the end of that, because I certainly do. We all need to come together.
Well, he can't be a dictator if he's just won an election with a landslide.
But he's an elected dictator.
Mandate,
He's in such a powerful position, had a very good election result, that, in fact, he doesn't have to care about what the opposition parties say. If the Conservatives Party, the Liberal Party and all the other parties banded together, which they never would because they don't agree about anything, he cannot be defeated. That is what I mean. That's when we spoke about a supermajority during the general election. He cannot be defeated. When Boris had a majority of 80, he could be defeated. But you cannot defeat someone with a majority that big, and that's the power that the British people gave to Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, and I think there's a lot of buyer's remorse coming in now.
What do you think about this, Carol? Because I'm racking my brains as to what this party conference is for, other than the election of a leader.
Well, Jake has just spun the party line there, and I'm just going to take him on about that, because this conference is the most important in the Tory party in a generation. You know, the Tories just won an election. It was the biggest defeat in the last 200 years. They've got a long way to go, and I don't see what they're doing. Do I think if an election was called tomorrow, with all the cock-ups that Labour have made in the past 2 months, do I think if an election was called tomorrow that people would go back to the Tories? Not in a million years. The votes would go to Reform and they'd go to the Lib Dems. I'm not saying that's right, but that's what would happen, because people have not forgotten the COVID contracts. They have not forgotten the sex scandals. They have not forgotten everything that went on under the Tories, the Partygate, all of that. They've not forgotten it. And what the Tories... And I thought this conference would be a time for them to regroup and to crack on. We've seen already with Badenoch and Jenrick setting his attack dogs on Kemi Badenoch to defeat her, to make a fool of her over this, what she said about maternity pay. This is not the Tories reuniting. To get the trust back of the British people, you're going to have to convince them that you're a serious party again. You're going to have to stop the infighting and the backbiting and the fighting among each other. You know, you're saying that they can't lose 116 majority. That is true. And Starmer is losing popularity. But the bottom line is the Tories aren't gaining it. It's not being reflected in Tory popularity right now. And I don't think it will be until the Tories show the British people they can be trusted again with some serious policies, with a leader that they can all get behind and not be trying to knock spots off. And that's what Jenrick's crew was trying to do over that maternity stuff.
Before I come to Benjamin, can I pick up on Carol's point there? Do you think that Jenrick is playing dirty and damaging his own party by throwing Kemi Badenoch under the bus in such a manner?
Well, first of all, let's deal with Kemi's comments. I think she just misspoke. I think she is a brilliant politician, a fantastic Conservative, and she just made a mistake. And I don't think we should jump on that. And it was an answer to a wider question about too much red tape on businesses, and she just threw maternity cover and things like that.
Well, she refused maternity cover when she played a role in the digital department of the Spectator magazine.
Well,
so
she didn't refuse it, did she? She resigned, so she didn't take it. I'm not quite sure.
She was...
No, but a lot, I think...
No, you can't just say... She was saying she was misinterpreted in the same way Thatcher was over social. She was talking about how, how this maternity pay can affect... She was talking about how it can affect people and how the stuff that goes around the maternity pay... Oh, I forgot one of them.
Well, Carol, look, I think the point is this. You cannot misinterpret if you're live on a radio programme and you say something... That can't really be misinterpreted because you're being held to account for what you said. I think the point is it was a wider answer about business administration and all the challenges that we face. That's actually what I said, Carol. It was a wider answer.
Dirty and damaging his own party.
Look, we shouldn't be surprised that... I don't think Jenrick is playing dirty. I haven't heard him say one thing about it, but we shouldn't be surprised... We shouldn't be surprised that in the latter throes of a leadership election, all these ambitious people who really, they're reaching for the same prize... try very hard to get it. I haven't heard any of the candidates brief against each other. Now, I don't know what their teams are doing.
Dirty tricks from Jenrick.
I do think it's that. You know Jenrick's supporters have got the slogan is "Get Kemi." You know that.
It's not. The slogan is "We want Bobby J."
Well, yes, but
that's what they've got on their hats.
We all want
Benjamin's about to tell us what it means.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't hold my breath. I've been married a lot of years. Benjamin, let me put a spanner in the works here. Based upon Keir Starmer's performance in the last couple of months, I think that Labour will lose the next general election, and therefore it's all to play for the Tories.
Well, I think anybody making predictions about an election 5 years away, if anything we've learned from the last couple of years, it's nonsense to try and predict that. I think Carol Malone is for once, she's absolutely right. The depth of...
For once? Thank you so much.
The depth, after 3 years, the depth of the disdain for the Tory party is very real. And I think what we've not seen in this leadership election is a depth of ideas or of understanding of what needs to change. And Theresa May wrote a comment piece in The Times at the weekend where she said that she thinks that all four candidates are basically off the mark because they're obsessing over the Reform voters when they lost, 70 seats to Lib Dems.
OK.
And they would be wiser to think about that. And we've heard nothing.
Right.
And may I just point out, there's only 4,000 Tory members at conference. That's the same as Reform had.
All right.
So this isn't the country.
Well, let me tell you, we'll be discussing the threat of Reform at 10 o'clock, and I'll be posing a simple question in my 10 p.m. monologue. Would a young Margaret Thatcher join the Conservative Party in its current incarnation? You might be surprised by my answer. That's at 10. But next up, the weather is turning, the nights are drawing in, and you still have plenty of time to grab an autumn cash boost of an incredible £36,000 in cash. It is the biggest cash prize of the year so far, and it could be yours. Here's how you get it.
On demand. Good luck.
Still to come, as Freebie Gate rages on, is Sir Keir Starmer fit to be Prime Minister? We'll hear from both sides on that one. Let me tell you that fireworks will be fired, folks. It's our head-to-head. Starmer, is he fit to be PM? That's next.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Strictly starts tomorrow. There's been a bit of controversy around this year's show. What are your thoughts on that? You've been defending Giovanni. What's your thoughts on all of this year's show and the build-up to it?
Oh, I think it will be as wonderful as it's always been. You know, it's an uplifting show, isn't it? It's got the glamour, everything. There's nothing to make you sad in it. And, you know, I had the most amazing time. And Giovanni was my partner. And it's still, you know, a life-changing experience. And at that time in my life as well, it was a year after Paul, my late husband, had died. You know, it was a tough, tough time. And it just totally brought me out of all my grief. And everyone on the programme was just so lovely. It's like a big family. And my experience of Giovanni, I know other people have said they've had a different experience, but mine was he really looked after me in my grief.
I remember, Debbie, at the time you spoke so movingly about how dance was like therapy for you. It helped to bring your Shazam back. It got you back on track. But could I ask you at all about the investigation that's being carried out in Giovanni? Do you think that can be properly conducted? And have you been approached to give any evidence in that?
I think it will. I'm sure that, you know, they will do it very thoroughly. And the fact that it's taken quite a long time, you know, is that they're really going into it to make sure they make the right decision at the end of it. And I think lots of people will be invited to give their experience of Strictly. So I just hope at the end of the day, you know, I don't want anyone to be bullied. You know, I'm really against all of that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring. Not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Would a young Margaret Thatcher join the modern-day Conservative Party? I'll be giving my verdict at 10. But first, the head-to-head. Do love that bell. Now, after a flurry of sleaze allegations, can Sir Keir Starmer survive as Prime Minister? There are now even concerns about his temperament, following these concerning remarks from Sky News' political editor Beth Rigby about her experience interviewing the Prime Minister last week.
I was trying to say is, do you understand how it looks when you present yourself as one thing and then you allow a perception to build that you're just like the others You're taking freebies. At one point, I said to him, some people might think this is continuity Johnson. You're taking freebies from rich friends. He was absolutely furious with me. It was really uncomfortable.
Really uncomfortable. Damning words there from Beth Rigby. With no deep well of support within the party for this ailing Premier, and with respected MP Rosie Duffield having quit Labour in fury, could he be gone by Christmas? And here's a question for you. Is Sir Keir Starmer fit to be Prime Minister? Let me know your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say or tweet us at GBNews. First up, let's get the views of Labour Party activist and writer Aisha Ali Khan and former Conservative MP and Minister Andrea Jenkyns. Aisha, good to have you on the programme. Is Sir Keir fit to be Prime Minister?
Absolutely. He's only been in office, not even a full 3 months. Let's give him a proper chance. Yes, we've had a few really uncomfortable headlines, myself included in that uncomfortable crowd. But look, we've only just been returned to power after 14 years. It's been a long time. There's a lot of things to do, a lot of cleaning up to do. And I think we need to give him a proper chance. These kind of things that obviously have come to light, wish they hadn't, because it just makes everybody quite uncomfortable. There was no need for, say, for example, the freebie clothes and so on. But I think let's just give him a chance. There's a lot of work to do, and I have my full, total faith in him, in Rachel Reeves, and the rest of the party right now.
Aisha, statistically, Sir Keir Starmer is the greediest Member of Parliament, £110,000 worth of goodies since 2019. And he's been angry with a very senior female political reporter at Sky News and made her feel uncomfortable. I don't think this guy has got the right temperament for the job, or indeed the right character, does he?
Well, first of all, I agreed with what Beth was saying. He should have just apologised. He should have got upset. He should not have got angry.
He made her uncomfortable.
When he makes a mistake. Well, this is exactly what I'm saying. You know, in any given circumstances, the person, you know, who is leading our country right now, he should have just said, "Look, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Let's work together to make sure it doesn't happen." And in many aspects, he has done this right now. He's already apologised for the clothes. He's already said that's not going to happen anymore. So there are things that he's doing, making amends and moving on. Obviously, look, I wish that these headlines, I've had lots of people contact me and say, what's going on here? You were out there campaigning and so on. This doesn't look good. And I absolutely agree. It doesn't. But I'm saying, it's only been 3 months, not even proper 3 months. Let's give him a chance. Let's see what's going on. There's been so many positive things that have already happened in the last 12 weeks or so. And I'm really confident that we are definitely going to have much more, many more positive things that are going to happen.
Well, I think Aisha, you've got common sense, and you're absolutely right that an apology is the answer. I don't think we've had an apology from Sir Keir Starmer. And Dame Andrea Jenkyns, I think that's because of his temperament and his attitude. I think he's arrogant, and I think he might have a problem with women.
I mean, I think, Mark, it's what a disastrous 3 months for any Prime Minister in office. Normally they have a bounce, don't they, in the polls. Normally they have a honeymoon period, but he's not had that whatsoever. I think it actually stinks because he is so sanctimonious. Starmer is so hypocritical and, quite frankly, has had an easy ride with the other mainstream media, Mark. Not GB News. GB News have been fair on both sides. You always get, like you can see, you got Aisha on today. But let's face it, Sky News have quite given him an easy ride. So he was actually probably shocked that they're actually challenging him for once. And I think his mask slipped and we saw this other side to him, Mark.
Do you think it's appropriate that the Prime Minister should make a senior television journalist feel, and I quote, very uncomfortable?
No, of course it's not. Not whatsoever. And let's face it, Beth has been doing Sky for years and years, and she's interviewed so many people. For her to feel uncomfortable, she's quite a strong cookie. It must have been a difficult situation, Mark.
Aisha, Diane Abbott has said that Keir Starmer treated her like a non-human, and Rosie Duffield, Labour MP, who has now renounced the Labour whip and left the party in the Commons, said she was ignored by Starmer whilst she received rape and death threats for pointing out there are two biological sexes. Does Keir Starmer have a problem with women?
Absolutely not. No way. I think these, obviously, individuals like Diane, I have so much respect for Diane, and obviously Rosie as well. I think these the circumstances in both those situations absolutely did not agree with Diane Abbott being ignored. She was suspended. She complained. She tried to get hold of the Keir Starmer in the office. Did it happen for a long time? Absolutely wrong. I will actually call out if there's something that's wrong. I will call out. I will not stay quiet and agree and nod my head. Absolutely not. Again, Rosie just resigned over the weekend and she again penned a letter saying she wasn't happy. But my position is this. We have waited 14 years. As soon as we've returned to power, we've started making massive changes. I am a classroom teacher. I've already seen a massive change in what's going on in schools.
But do you want 14 years with a duff in charge? Let's face it, if he's incompetent, why would you want to keep him there?
I don't think Keir Starmer is incompetent. I think he's showing, obviously, he's moving forward. He's got quite a tricky start to his leadership. There's been the £22 billion.
What, it's self-inflicted, though, let's face it.
Well, no, the 22 billion pounds was under your watch, was under the Tories' watch, and that's another massive issue. That
half of that went to trained drivers and junior doctors.
Exactly.
Sorry, I missed that.
Half of that 20 billion went to trained drivers and junior doctors.
That's not that. I don't accept that at all. I think,
and on the net zero agenda, what Miliband's pledged to.
But this is something that Boris Johnson himself introduced. These are the policies that were basically introduced under the Conservative leadership.
So are you saying there's no difference between Labour and Conservative? We may as well continue Conservative.
I think what you'll find, there's a lot more transparency and a lot more willingness to put your hands up and say we've done wrong. I mean, look, we're still trying to find 15 billion. From the COVID, what happened to that money?
All right, well, listen, let me tell you, I did say that sparks would fly. Aisha, what a delight to have you on the programme. I hope you'll join us again in the near future. My thanks to Aisha Ali Khan, and also delighted once again to see former Conservative MP and Minister Dame Andrea Jenkins. So, what are your thoughts on this? Is Sir Keir Starmer unfit to be Prime Minister? Adam on X says he is fit to be Prime Minister. Keir Starmer will be PM for 10 years. Love to have a drop of what he's been on. Alex says, absolutely, he has exposed himself as a complete hypocrite and liar, no better than the Tories. Adrian on X says he was never fit to be an MP, much less PM, and your verdict is now in. 90% of you believe that Sir Keir Starmer is unfit to be Prime Minister. 10% say he's doing a good job. OK, folks, next up, a crisis for the BBC as the scandal hit Strictly Come Dancing apologises to one of its biggest stars over abuse allegations. Is the show now one or two dance moves away from being axed? We'll find out next in the company of Britain's best-connected showbiz journalist.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. The next 24 hours stays damp and blustery in the east, but it does dry up elsewhere. Brighter skies coming along in the west later on Tuesday. Finally, a drier period to give us all a respite from all the rain, but it is going to take its time as this low slowly clears eastwards. It's still going to bring further rain to northern England, into parts of the Midlands overnight, East Anglia, as well as North Wales. Now, that rain does turn more showery in the west, the north and the northwest, seeing plenty of clear spells overnight under those clear skies. Temperatures falling into the single figures. But it's blustery elsewhere as we start off Tuesday, and there's certainly more rain to come across parts of East Midlands into East Anglia and down that North Sea coast. Now, we've got a few showers across Aberdeenshire into the Great Glen, but otherwise plenty of bright weather across much of northern and western Scotland. Northern Ireland, a lovely start to the day. Blue skies here, just one or two mist patches. Likewise for northwest England, but for Wales and the southwest, areas of cloud floating about and a few showers. Nevertheless, it's the eastern side of England where we continue to see a strong wind, gales for some exposed North Sea coasts and further spells of rain. The rain tending to become lighter through the day, but it's going to stay feeling miserable, I think, under that wet weather, and with a lot of low cloud along with the brisk breeze. Temperatures of 12 or 13 Celsius in the east, whilst further west where we do get some sunshine, 15 to 17 degrees. Now into Wednesday, there'll be yet more showers coming in on a northeasterly breeze across parts of East Anglia into the southeast. But elsewhere, much brighter skies. Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, West Wales and the southwest seeing plenty of sunshine. Those sunny skies transfer east through Thursday and into Friday. So a few days at least of drier and brighter weather.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's Newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, in a huge embarrassment for the BBC, a damning investigation into the scandal hit Strictly Come Dancing has upheld several serious complaints about professional dancer Gianni Vernice's behaviour on the show. Although the corporation has upheld some but not all of the complaints made against the Italian dancer, they have apologised to the Sherlock actress Amanda Abingdon, who spoke of the mental health and physical trauma suffered at the hands of her dance partner on the show. Now, in a statement, she said the following. She said, "I've been accused of being a liar, a troublemaker, and of being mad and unstable." She claims that the apology from the BBC has vindicated her decision to speak out. So what's next for the BBC's biggest entertainment show? Well, I'm going to speak to a top showbiz guest in a moment. Can I give you my 2 pennies worth about this? I think the BBC has a problem of its culture, how it manages things. This is the same organisation that allowed Hugh Edwards to be the face of its news operation, whilst serious allegations were floating around about his behaviour. I'm not just talking about what happened to be and what turned out to be the egregious crime of images of child sexual abuse on his phone. Long before that, there were concerns about Edward's behaviour with colleagues, creepy text messages, all the rest of it. And now Strictly, which appears to have put several of its dancing stars through absolute hell, PTSD, physical and mental trauma, and now they've had to apologise. So what is going to happen to Strictly? Is it 1 or 2 dance moves away from being axed? Let's get the views of one of the best connected showbiz journalists in the country, Sarah Louise Robertson. Sarah, has Giovanni Pernice been thrown under the bus here?
I think he has a little bit, Mark, to be honest with you. I mean, what's really interesting from this is that today the BBC's come out and said that actually they can't find any wrongdoing against him, apart from the fact that he swore a couple of times at Amanda. She's taking this as she's been vindicated in her complaints. And she's taken it that she has had her complaints upheld because the BBC has given her an apology for this and saying that it should have had a bit of a more robust procedure. But I just think it's absolutely disgraceful for Giovanni, because this has dragged on, Mark, for such a long time. It really, really has. It's been over 6 months. And really, when you look at it, is that he was originally accused of the allegations, which were serious allegations of bullying, of abuse, of threatening behaviour, which could have cost him his livelihood and his dancing career. And it ended up that he wasn't selected to come back onto this year's show, and now he's having to work in Italy. He's managed to get a job on the.
Sarah Louise, I'm going to interrupt you because Sarah Louise, I've got to interrupt you because the line is not great, I'm afraid. I wish we had longer, but we'll definitely reconnect on this story because it's not going to go away. I think it's an example of BBC incompetence at management level. Let me tell you, I know these people. I've worked with these people. They're on a fortune, right? Middle managers swanning around in Armani suits and, frankly, letting down the British licence fee taxpayers. Look, more on the BBC shambles shortly, but let's head back to Birmingham. And Patrick Christys is at the GBNews party. Patrick, what's going down?
Well, the warm-up has started. The queue is building outside. I've got a non-alcoholic beer on the go. I know how to live. Bell and Sperling behind me are going to be the entertainment. And they've told me that they've just rewritten their famous Sven song, especially for me. So, lads, go on.
Yes, ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Patrick Christys. He's a lovely geezer, but watch him around your missus.
Right, cheers, lads. All right. Well, on that, let's have a little look around. Let's have a little look around, shall we? So here we go. It's amazing who you bump into at the bar. This is our political editor, Christopher Hope, who looks at his wits out.
Just leave me alone, Patrick. I'm exhausted. What are you doing?
Right there? Everything going okay?
Yeah, well, it's kind of this party conference meant for a pre-election conference, and said it's like, you know, they're out of government, there's like 121 MPs. It's like, what is the point of it all? But never mind, we follow around 4 of these candidates. One of them might be the leader, and then they're doing nothing for 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I did see a poll that just landed before I came to you, which is that apparently the public prefer Rishi Sunak's government than they do to this government. I mean, is there a feeling of that here? Because actually, I was expecting it to be very miserable, but I mean, all joking aside, it's actually relatively buoyant in there.
It is, because the weight of government's been released from their shoulders, and they seem quite jolly. I'll give you one fact I think is interesting. So Boris Johnson won in 2019, OK? He won on a premise of getting rid of Brexit, the problem of Brexit, and getting rid of the issue of Jeremy Corbyn. That happened on day 2 or day 40, about January after the election, and then that was it. No ideas. This government, I think, said, well, we're not the Tory party, but what are we? And it's not answered yet, and that is seen by the polling.
Yeah, lots of undecideds, though. Again, I'll just say to you, over the course of this evening, we're supposed to be getting, you know, quite a few of the leadership candidates, hopefully. Some of the big hitters around, certainly some of the people who are backing their respective candidates as well.
You, Patrick, they want to meet you.
Well, they want to be at the GBNews party because it is the hottest ticket in town. We've even got things set up here. These will be all lit up shortly, won't they? The G and the B. There we are. We've got the GBNews shop around the corner for people as well. And the queue, I think, if you just slightly see through those doors here, can we have a very quick look? A very quick look. I think, hang on, come on. 1 second. 1 second. Follow me out. Oh, yeah, here we go. It's starting already. There we go, lads. Thank you very much. You can have a little shot. The doors don't even open for another, 45 minutes, but already people are out there waiting. So there we go. Back to you in the studio.
I tell you, you are the life and soul of the party. Patrick will catch up later. Now, next, following the sleaze row, have Labour already lost the next general election? Kelvin McKenzie joins me live in the studio. See you in 2.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
And we've got a treat, not only to have you here, but you've brought loads of exclusives for us this morning.
Well,
your chat with Robert Jenrick.
Just for you, Ellie. Yeah, Robert Jenrick, of course, is the front-runner to be Tory leader.
He is now, yeah.
Amongst Tory MPs, yeah. And he's been talking to us for my podcast, Chopper's Political Podcast, about immigration, about criminals being released from prison. Also, really importantly,
most importantly, some would say.
Yeah, biscuits. Now,
biscuits.
He was, I should explain to viewers, Robert Jenrick during the COVID pandemic had to pull together a hamper of goods for those isolating, and he put in a special biscuit.
Yes.
Here's what he had to say on the podcast. Before we move on to the future and what your plans are, your biggest achievement in government, what do you reckon it was? I know what it was.
Well, you go first.
Yeah, custard creams.
I thought you were going to say that I saved a penny. That was another one of our campaigns, yeah.
But custard creams, briefly, I mean, you were the community secretary. You had to provide food boxes during the COVID pandemic, and what did you put into those food boxes?
Custard creams, the people's favourite biscuit.
What else is there? The people's favourite biscuit. Now, across the country, well,
Aidan.
Coffees are being dropped across the country.
Yeah,
is that really the people's favourite biscuit, Aidan?
Listen, you'll never change my opinion. I like shortbread, but I like it homemade. With a sprinkling of sugar. Listen, I'm type 1 diabetic. I had to be quite moderate in terms of my intake, but goodness me.
I mean,
a nice cup of tea.
that's a good one.
It's
That's
about the
a good
shape
answer.
as well. If you show, some more intelligent biscuit companies, they will make shapes of biscuit that fit into the tea. There's nothing worse than when you put it into a narrow cup and it won't
go in, will it? You can't hit the.
So you like the triangular?
Not really
shortbread.
Fingers. Just something a bit elongated that I can turn sideways and dip in like that.
Got you.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This Sunday, join me, Camilla Tominey, for an exclusive interview with one of the most controversial, influential and unique political figures of our time. Boris Johnson will be in studio discussing his new memoir, Unleashed, the gripping story of how he dealt with plotting politicians, problematic princes and a pandemic. From Boris bikes to Brexit and everything else in between. This Sunday at 9:30 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have Labour already lost the next general election? I'll be asking Kelvin McKenzie in just 2 minutes' time. But let me tell you that Patrick Christys is live in Birmingham at the Tory party conference and the GB News party. And I believe you're in very gilded company, Patrick.
Oh, absolutely, yes. So the stage is set, quite literally. But I'm going to bring in now Andrew Rosendale. How are you?
I'm well, Patrick. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. And in fact, we've laid it on for you. So there you go. Cheers, my good man. Yeah. So this is really the place to be. They're already queuing up outside. It's going to kick right off in here for the next few hours. You've got a Jenrick for Leader badge. Bobby J. Why?
Absolutely. Because we need someone that's going to stand up for true conservative values. Party lost its way, for goodness sake. We should be conservative, and we lost the plot. And I think Robert has got the right ideas on immigration, on law and order, getting out of the ECHR, making sure that Brexit is properly done. All these things are what the British people want. So I think he's the Conservative to take us forward and to get Labour out at the next election.
And there is genuinely a sense here that Labour could be a one-term government despite that massive majority.
Yeah, well, I hope so, because we can't afford decades of socialism. We know the damage that socialism does to any country, but particularly in Britain. It was only Margaret Thatcher that rid us of socialism before. We don't want it again, but we need to unite the right. So I say, shame Nigel's not here tonight, because I think Conservatives and Reform, really, we're on the same page on most things. And I think if the Conservative Party moves towards Reform, Conservative Party and Reform together can knock Labour out next time. That's what we need to do.
OK, all right, fantastic. So you're going to be here. Are you here for the duration, are you?
Whole time, yes. I've been going to party conference for 42 years. First one was 82, and Mrs. Thatcher, the Falklands year. So it's always great to be here, and great to be here with GB News.
Absolutely, 100%. This is very much the place to be. Well, cheers. You're going to be hearing a fair bit more from this wonderful chap here. If we could just pan up above the bar there, the GB News lights have kicked in, which is a nice thing. Like I said, doors are at 10 p.m, so expect that to happen. If you just follow me around here quickly, I'll just give our staff a little chance to get out of the way there. This is going to be the GB News shop. So we're getting set up here. So if you want a GB News umbrella, which is much needed actually in the weather in Birmingham at the moment, you can have your mug, you can have all sorts. We're touting our wares here, but this place is going to be absolutely jumping. Let's whiz it back round. So there are a few things on everybody's lips here. Leaving the ECHR, that is a big dividing point. That is a massive one. The other one is how on earth they factor in the threat of Nigel Farage. There's big talk about whether or not the Tory party should stand aside in certain seats for reform, and vice versa. So that's all up for grabs.
I need to buy you lunch. Brilliant stuff, Patrick. Keep up the good work. Lots more surprises and treats on the way from Patrick up in Birmingham. But following the ongoing row over freebies and sleaze, not to mention feared tax rises in the budget and the removal of the winter fuel allowance for 10 million pensioners, have Labour already lost the next general election? Let's get the views of legendary former newspaper editor and the founder of TalkSport Radio, Kelvin McKenzie. Kelvin, is Sir Keir Starmer's goose already cooked?
Well, I think it's half cooked. I mean, you'd be a genius to forecast what was going to happen in 5 minutes' time in politics, let alone 5 years. But what is clear is that Starmer has poor political antennae. He's cunning, and he's not a... I mean, I find it impossible to understand why somebody who makes as much money as he does and a leading lawyer, why does he need 32,000 quid's worth of suits? If you bought them at M&S, top-of-the-range grey suit, not dissimilar from your own.
Moss, yes, you're welcome. Not Primark, how dare you?
That would be 150 quid. That means he would buy 200 suits. So he clearly didn't do that. He probably bought 10 from Savile Row, right? Now, he's talking to the, quotes, poor all day long. This is what he thinks of the poor. He says, actually, you're poor and you're old. We're going to take 300 quid off you this year. And by the way, we're going to do it every year for the 5 years we're in power. So he has lost the old vote. The old vote in this country, as Cameron worked out, which was the only decent legacy, is massively important. So I would say that he will continue to make mistakes. But come October the 30th, he will be working... because he will have been surprised at the massive pushback on this. So he will be working, and Rachel Thieves will be also working very hard to make sure that they don't do anything more to aggravate the poor and their Labour base. The reality is, with social media, there is no chance at all of Labour being re-elected with anything like this. If they have any majority in 5 years' time, I'll be absolutely astonished. And Reform will be looking across Europe right now and watching whether it's in Netherlands or in Austria or in some of the German states. France. They will be, and France, they will be... So I'm Nigel Farage. I am saying to myself, this is my time. And the Tories should be very, very careful who they pick, because if they pick somebody, a Tugendhat, for instance, honestly, they will not only be...
Centrist figure. A wet One Nation Tory.
Yes, if they do that, they will be out not for 5 years, they will be out for the 10 that they fear.
Now, Sir Keir Starmer will be very clear that he hasn't broken any rules, no law has been broken. And, of course, Rachel Reeves has to have that rather brutal budget because of the financial hot mess left by the Conservatives. But, Kelvin, you know Fleet Street inside out. Now, there's no deep well of goodwill towards Keir Starmer within the Labour Party. We've seen that now with the defection of Rosie Duffield. The left can't stand him. Hashtag Keir out is often trending on Twitter. So I think the party movement of Labour doesn't particularly love Keir Starmer. What about the press? Is there a well of goodwill towards Keir Starmer in Fleet Street?
No. I mean, one of the more bizarre and more ridiculous and a huge mistake by Rupert Murdoch was to say, I want you to back Starmer. I'm not sure how to spell his name, but I really want him out. And in doing so, that was a huge error. The first thing that happened was their sale collapsed, right? And they didn't have many anyway. I mean, this is not like the old days under that bloke Kelvin McKenzie, 4 million plus. It's now it's about 4. So, you know, that was a huge error. But what Starmer was doing was something cunning. What he was doing was holding Leveson 2 over them. I won't bother going into the details of it, but it would be a catastrophe for a free press if Leveson 2 came in. And so the Sun and the idiots who decided this decided to go for Starmer. They will not believe in Starmer.
Right. Well, of course, the Sun would argue they picked the winner, but I'm not so sure that's going to age well. Do you think that Fleet Street have got more on Keir Starmer? Is there more to come? Because I've been shocked by what we've seen so far.
Well, there seem...
Is there a campaign now? You know, are they out to get him? Have they drawn blood? Because you know how journalists work.
Yes. Well, they're all looking. They're all looking for any piece of information which will damage him. And if you go onto the online world, go into social media, which I'm not particularly advocating on this subject, there are all kinds of allegations left, right and centre. What puzzles me about this is why it is that Starmer hasn't acted against these allegations. There's a load of rather crappy lawyers out there who could jump on all this, but they need the Prime Minister's go-ahead. And some of the stuff is quite raw.
Do you think he's in serious trouble? Could he be gone by Christmas if this continues, if the bad headlines keep coming?
He won't be gone by Christmas unless one of the allegations I've seen on social media turns out to be correct. So I would say there's a load of rubbish online, and if there's an element of truth, then he will be in trouble.
Let's talk about Prince Harry. He's landed in the UK. The prodigal prince has graced us with his presence for a charitable cause. 7th day in a row in the absence of his wife, Meghan. Is there trouble in paradise?
Well, if there is, he hasn't told me anything about it, I must say. As distinct from some of those royal editors who seem to know what's going on from 6,000 miles away. All I would say is she clearly doesn't want to be here, right? And actually, funnily enough, the people in this country don't want her here. I think they'd probably like to see Harry's children. But this is a long, drawn-out kind of war, which all families have these issues. All families have these issues. The thing I would most like to see is actually Harry to go and see Kate, right, and see whether something could be done there. It's unlikely to be done with the brother. I mean, the father's got cancer, the sister-in-law's got cancer. It is incumbent on Harry to make the first move, right? He's the one who is not ill. And it's pathetic to see this kind of warfare paid out in public.
There you go. A bit of tough love from the legendary Kelvin McKenzie. Kelvin, catch up soon. Looking very well. What a sharp whistle you're wearing tonight. Blimey, I can smell the money from here. Now, as they gather for their annual party conference, the Tories are...
I've got it from Lord Ali.
Yeah, well, at least you paid for it. The Tories are in denial about the threat of Nigel Farage. Would Thatcher join the Tories today? I'll be answering that question next, and you may be surprised by my answer.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. The next 24 hours stays damp and blustery in the east, but it does dry up elsewhere. Brighter skies coming along in the west later on Tuesday. Finally, a drier period to give us all a respite from all the rain, but it is going to take its time as this low slowly clears. Eastwards, it's still going to bring further rain to northern England, into parts of the Midlands overnight, East Anglia, as well as North Wales. Now, that rain does turn more showery in the west, the north and the northwest, seeing plenty of clear spells overnight under those clear skies. Temperatures falling into the single figures. But it's blustery elsewhere as we start off Tuesday, and there's certainly more rain to come across parts of East Midlands into East Anglia and down that North Sea coast. Now, we've got a few showers across Aberdeenshire into the Great Glen, but otherwise plenty of bright weather across much of northern and western Scotland. Northern Ireland, a lovely start to the day. Blue skies here, just one or two mist patches. Likewise for northwest England. But for Wales and the southwest, areas of cloud floating about and a few showers. Nevertheless, it's the eastern side of England where we continue to see a strong wind, gales for some exposed North Sea coasts and further spells of rain. The rain tending to become lighter through the day, but it's going to stay feeling miserable, I think, under that wet weather, and with a lot of low cloud along with the brisk breeze. Temperatures of 12 or 13 Celsius in the east, whilst further west where we do get some sunshine, 15 to 17 degrees. Now into Wednesday, there'll be yet more showers coming in on a northeasterly breeze across parts of East Anglia into the southeast. But elsewhere, much brighter skies. Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, West Wales and the southwest, seeing plenty of sunshine. Those sunny skies transfer east through Thursday and into Friday. So a few days at least of drier and brighter weather.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We like
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
It's 10 o'clock. This is Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Mark Dolan. All the latest from Tory party conference as we head live to Birmingham, and our very own Patrick Christys, who is there for us.
I am indeed, and just have a little look at this queue so far. We've already got them backed up all the way over there. There we go, and all the way back down here as well. Uche, come on, let's have a look. Now, is everybody ready for a GB News party?
Brilliant stuff, Patrick, but I'm afraid I'm going to be a party pooper because as they gather for their conference this year, it's my view the Conservatives are in total denial about the threat of Nigel Farage and Reform UK. Here's a question for you. Would a young Margaret Thatcher support this modern Conservative Party today? Would she join? Would she lead it? I'll be answering that question in my monologue in 2 minutes' time, and my answer may shock you. On the panel tonight, reacting to the big stories of the day, including more bad headlines for Labour, we've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and Housewives' favourite, former chairman of the Conservative Party, Sir Jake Berry. Busy show, let's go.
Good evening, I'm Sophia Wensler with your headlines just after 10 o'clock. The Foreign Secretary has responded to reports that Israel is launching a potential ground assault on Lebanon, with troops reportedly positioned for an incursion. Meanwhile, Reuters is reporting Hezbollah has attacked Israel using a ballistic missile. It comes after the Lebanese Prime Minister said up to 1 million people have been displaced as fighting between Israel and the terror group Hezbollah continues. Mr. Lammy has spoken with his US counterpart, Antony Blinken, and reiterated the need for a ceasefire.
We both agreed the position that we had at the UN last week, that the best way forward is an immediate ceasefire. I have been urging since coming to office in July for British nationals to leave Lebanon. Notwithstanding that, of course, we've sent a rapid response team. 700 troops are in Cyprus. We will do all we can to assist people to get out, and we have secured places on commercial flights that are flying tomorrow so that UK nationals can get out.
And back in the UK, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has thanked the Cabinet Secretary Simon Case for his support and years of service to our country after it was announced that he will step down at the end of the year on medical grounds. Cabinet Secretary Mr Case, who has been undergoing treatment for a neurological condition, told colleagues, whilst the spirit remains willing, the body is not. In other news now, police have named an 8-year-old boy who died after being shot on a farm in Cumbria as Jay Cartmel of Frizington. Cumbria police said they were called to reports of the boy being injured by a firearm on Saturday. He was taken to hospital and sadly died overnight, having suffered injuries to his head and face. A man has been arrested on suspicion of gross negligent manslaughter and has been bailed. The BBC has apologised to former Strictly Come Dancing contestant Amanda Abingdon, saying it has assessed and upheld some, but not all, of her complaints about Giovanni Panice's behaviour during the time on the show. BBC management have upheld 6 out of 17 allegations, some of which are for the professional dancer's use of swear words. In a statement this afternoon, Mr Panice said he was pleased the BBC had not found any evidence of threatening or abusive behaviour by him. Now, the Duke of Sussex is in the UK today to celebrate the achievements and resilience of seriously ill youngsters and their families. Prince Harry is attending the WellChild Awards ceremony in London in his role as the charity's patron, a position he's held for more than 15 years. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sophia. Good evening. As they gather in Birmingham for their annual conference, if the Tories think it's business as usual, select a new leader and be in the running for power at the next election, they can think again. This once great party, which gave us Winston Churchill, who defeated Hitler and saved the free world, and Margaret Thatcher, who liberated the working class and turned Britain into a global military, diplomatic and economic superpower, well, that same party is now in a death spiral. But speak to any corduroy-clad Conservative today over a large gin and tonic, and they'll bore you to tears about how the Tory party is the most successful political movement in the history of modern democracy. Well, they were, but not anymore. That was then, and this is now. Margaret Thatcher would be spinning in her grave if she saw what her party had become. Do you think she would have signed up to legal net migration of 250,000 people a year? Do you think she would have signed up for the highest tax burden since the war? Would Margaret Thatcher have inflicted those illiberal, authoritarian and ruinous lockdowns on the country, which even Boris Johnson, in his bombshell new book, has admitted didn't work? Do me a favour. Would Margaret Thatcher have tolerated the left-wing ideological capture of our public institutions, all of which happened on the watch of the Conservatives, with kids having their private parts chopped off in the name of inclusion, schools and universities teaching our children that this country is shameful, and the words mother or woman removed from NHS literature about the menopause or pregnancy? She might have had a pair of balls, but Margaret Thatcher would have killed this trans madness stone dead. Do you think that Margaret Thatcher, as a trained scientist, would have signed up for net zero, given the experimental nature of these new technologies, the enormous economic and societal cost, and the fact that half the world isn't even doing net zero, a half of the world that includes China, a hateful totalitarian regime who seek to be the dominant economic superpower of the future? Now, the Conservative Party is an iconic institution and has done infinitely more good than bad. And it may do so again. I hope it does. But right now, the Tory party is a hollow shell of its former self. I've got to tell you, at this stage, for the Conservatives, it is now damage limitation. Because the Reform UK genie is out of the bottle and it's not going back in. Whilst Labour, for all of their problems, are predominantly the main party of the left in this country, the Tories must now share votes on the right with one Nigel Paul Farage. They've done this to themselves, of course, over 14 long years of broken promises, squandered opportunities and a noticeable and inexplicable shift to the left. The Tory party is now the party of centrist dads, Blairites and glorified Liberal Democrats. Their legacy in power, a bloated welfare bill, a profligate but ever-worsening health service, a worklessness crisis, low growth, low productivity, cheap foreign labour, overflowing prisons, lawlessness on the streets, the boats, no houses. It's a shambles. It tells you everything you need to know. that the truly abysmal Theresa May began Britain's reckless adventure with net zero, even though her then Chancellor Philip Hammond warned her that it would cost at least £1 trillion. This is the same Theresa May who recently declared that she's proudly woke. Well, this complacent party needs to wake up. The first step is to elect a leader who is a true Conservative, who will police the borders, reduce legal immigration, and get legal immigration to a level that serves the economy but doesn't destroy society. A leader who accelerates Rishi Sunak's sensible move away from the worst excesses of net zero. A leader who gets taxes down, supports businesses and grows the economy. And the new leader is going to have to build a relationship and form a soft political coalition with Nigel Farage and Reform UK. Because the Tories are now like an ailing business that will only survive with a merger. Why? Well, because the maths just don't add up. With Reform's 4.1 million votes at the last election, which I promise you will grow, the Conservatives have no hope of forming an overall majority without Reform's support. A sobering thought as the Tories fill the bars and nightclubs of Birmingham this evening. I've got no doubt that Margaret Thatcher will be celebrated at party conference this year, as she is every year, and rightly so. But would a young Margaret Thatcher now join this current Conservative Party? It's my honest view that the Iron Lady would probably be a Reform UK supporter. She would probably vote for Reform, she would probably campaign for them, and she would likely seek to serve them as leader if she were around today. And that is truly damning. Love them or hate them, Reform UK are looking like the real Conservatives now. It may be their party conference this week, but the party's over for the Tories. Now, folks, I'll get reaction from my top pundits in just a moment, but live in Birmingham is Patrick Christys himself, and he's at the GBNews party. What are the vibes? What's going down, Patrick? What's the goss?
Well, you just said that the party's over. It's certainly not over here. Come with me. The queue is absolutely massive for us here. Back it up. So, I mean, this is the hottest ticket in town, and if you don't believe me, you can tell that because even the BBC are here. Let's keep on walking down for us. We've got a chat from the Spectator. We've got Christy and Calgie, some fan favourites here. Are you up for the party?
We're up for whatever. What do you want?
Preferably a party. Sounded a bit more sinister than I was hoping for. Keep it on coming. Keep it on coming. Lads, are you all right? Fabulous stuff. Are you all right for the party?
I am. I'm just not allowed to drink any alcohol. Kidney failure.
Okay, fair enough. Good. What about you, mate?
Well, I'm up for the party, and in terms of leadership, don't know yet. Tugendhat looks like he's gained momentum. Whether I go, I don't know. I simply don't know.
Who are you voting for?
I'm not allowed to say because I'm one of the treasurers of the party, so I have to remain neutral.
All right.
But what I can tell you is that the mood here in Birmingham, we are upbeat. We have come together as a party, and we are the phoenix from the flames. We're going to win the next general election. And you heard it here first.
All right. It's a jubilant. There's some Robert Jenrick people there at the back.
Supporting Jenrick. I'm really, yeah. He's the best one.
Okay, all right. I think it might be time for us to get into this party. So let's come on through. Good to see you, Elliot. All the great and the good are here. All of the grandees. Right, let's get through the door here for us because we've just about got set up, and all of those wonderful people. Let's spin it round and see what waits for them. Yes, here we go. Go on down. So everyone's having a fantastic time already. As you can see, the bar is already flowing. Let's see if we can find some people, familiar faces. Darren Grimes.
Oh, you found me, Patrick. You found me.
What are you drinking, sir?
Oh, well, this is a gin and tonic. Very English, look.
Who are you thinking is going to win the Tory leadership based on what you've seen at conference today?
Look, I'm thinking that actually Kemi Badenoch has made a mistake this morning talking about maternity leave. I actually think Robert Jenrick has some momentum at this conference, Patrick.
Well, you heard it here first. Keep coming with me down here. Now, this is where you get to see some GB News reporters in the wild. We have got Catherine Forster. What are you drinking, Catherine?
Oh, I'm drinking, it's the GB News Welcome Cocktail, which is whiskey, Angostura bitters, apple juice and something else. It's my only alcoholic drink because I will be live on GB News bringing you the latest from 6 a.m. tomorrow. I'm hoping to get maybe 4 hours sleep.
Okay, good stuff. Well, thank you very much, Olivia. You're not getting away from this. Olivia Utley's also out and about in the wild. So how have you found the Tory conference so far? The mood seems quite upbeat.
Yeah, it's pretty cheerful. More cheerful, weirdly, than Labour last week, I thought. I think they're kind of quite excited not to be in power anymore, don't really feel any responsibility. I also think they haven't really clocked quite how much no one's interested in what they're saying anymore. So it's a sort of sweet spot for them in between losing power and realising how irrelevant they are. So, quite a good time for them, I'd say.
Well, there we go. And I'll tell you what, there's another familiar face. Come with me this way. It's the one. Come on. Here we go. Let's get on through. It's Lord Bailey. Lord Bailey, how are you finding conference so far?
Conference has been great. It's been much more peppy than I thought it would be. I think there's two reasons for that. Last week, Labour didn't have the best week, which has made people feel a bit better. But more importantly, I think because the leadership is happening, it's given us a real focus, and people are focused on that, so that's helped the spirit come up.
Do you know who you're backing yet?
I'm going to back Kemi, because what's brilliant is all four of them could do the job. But I think Kemi has a right combination of that pushy nature, not embarrassed about being a Conservative, very clear narrative for us all, and will bring us together, because we do need to rebuild, rethink who we are, and go back out to the public, and I think she's capable of that.
Okay, because some people would say that she puts her foot in it from time to time, like with the maternity pay comment.
Again, that was something that was taken out of comment because the left fear her, because if there's one thing I know about Kemi, she is brave. She will say what needs to be said, and part of the reason the country's in the pickle we're in now, we have too many sacred cows that we won't discuss publicly. Kemi is fearless, and we'll discuss them all.
Okay, all right. Let's just follow me round. Let's just see who we can find. Let's see who we can find here. So this is where Bell and Sterling are going to be singing from there. So there we go. I'm going to bring us round here now, because I can see our political editor Christopher Hope. He's propping up the bar. He's had a very long. I'm going to go for our deputy political editor Tom Harwood. Tom.
Hello, Patrick. How's it going?
That's all right. Any excuse for a party, Tom. So how are you finding this?
Oh, it's fucking...
Okay, all right. Well, let's just apologise for the language there and come on back round here. So, we're live on GB News.
This man is an actor and a Tory candidate, and he's Alex Clarkson, and he's rather glamorous and rather interesting.
Who are you backing?
Backing, do you know what? It was Pretty Patel to begin with. Cleverly's amazing.
Okay.
Jenrick's got the stuff on ECH.
Jenrick's got the stuff. It's back to you in the studio.
Brilliant stuff. It's a party atmosphere. Can I apologise to anybody that might have been offended by the strong language you've heard? Of course, we are post-Watershed, but, you know, it's a family show, so apologies if you were upset by the language there. But it is the GB News party up at Party Conference. The wine and the beer is flowing. Patrick is over-delivering. He'll be back in a few minutes' time with hopefully some of those leadership candidates. Of course, it is hotting up. Some people saying now that Jenrick is in pole position. But I've got a question for you. Are the Tories in denial about the threat of Nigel Farage and Reform UK? Do they arrogantly assume that those people who voted Reform in July will go back to the Tories in 4 years' time? And plus, would a young Margaret Thatcher now vote Reform UK? We'll debate all of that with my pundits next.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Please tell me that we're British. In our darkest hour, we can work around this. The beer will still be flowing at Christmas. Tell me, please.
Martin, without using bad language, there's no words to describe that this is another major blow to the hospitality sector. I wake up every day with anxiety thinking, what's going to happen to us now? Oh my God, now the weather's against us. Not only are the government absolutely battering us, then the weather's now hitting us as well.
Kate Stewart, this can only mean one thing. Prices, once again, going through the roof.
And there's nothing we can do. We have on costs. We have to buy from the brewery. We have the VAT. We have then the VAT, what we take. It is an absolute nightmare. To be in the pub game now, Martin, is very, very difficult. And there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Everything just keeps hammering us from every different direction. And obviously, we have to pass that on to the customers, then price increases. There's nothing we can do. We don't want to sell beer at an inflated price. We want it as cheap as possible to get people through them doors. But we have no option. They're going to go up again in the new budget. You know, there's no help for us. What are we supposed to do, Martin, except the only option is to close the doors and say, enough is enough. We can't do this anymore. I absolutely cry my eyes out having to put the prices up because you think, oh, my God, people are just going to turn away and walk. But we can't swallow the costs all the time, Martin. It's impossible for us to do because we will go bankrupt. There has to be there's inflation getting hammered on us yet again, and we have to pass it on. I feel it when I take my children out for something to eat. You're like, wow, that has just cost a fortune. But what is the answer? The answer is the government needs to look at saving the hospitality sector and stop being so greedy in everything that they take away from us, or there won't be pubs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
As they fill the bars and nightclubs of Birmingham for their party conference, are the Tories in denial about the threat of Nigel Farage and, indeed, Reform UK? And would a young Margaret Thatcher now join Reform rather than the Conservatives? Are Reform the real Conservatives? Let's get the views of my top pundits this evening. Daily Express icon, Carol Malone.
I've gone to an icon.
Soon to be icon. He's working on it. He's definitely the eye candy tonight. He is journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Budsworth, who only needed about 30 seconds in makeup because he's naturally...
He had the only 30 seconds that were available, but anyway.
And then let me tell you, this man doesn't need any adjectives because he's a knight of the realm. He is Sir Jake Berry, former chairman of the Conservative Party. I've got to come to you first, Jake. Is your party in denial about the threat of Nigel Farage and the small matter of 4.1 million votes in July?
So I thought the really interesting thing about the Vox Pops that we just saw from the amazing GB News party, and it would reflect my experience of being in Birmingham the last few days, is I do think there is a bit of a problem that the Conservatives have come together feeling good because Keir Starmer is doing badly. That is not the same thing as us doing well. And I think that's a bit of an issue, but we can't solve that issue until we have a new leader to unite behind. And picking up on something Carol said right at the top of the show about this should be a conference to end all conferences. We have all sorts of announcements. You simply cannot have those without a new leader in place. So query the logic of dragging the leadership election out longer than all the episodes of The Last of the Summer Wine put together, dragging the leadership election out till the day before the American presidential election. That probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. But we are where we are, and so we are having a good debate about who should be leader, but there are no policies, there's no announcements, there's no direction, there's no one to follow, and I don't think that's a good spot to find yourself in.
You're the former party chairman. Would you have moved the date forward? I mean, there was speculation in the Mail this weekend that it could happen in the last week of October. Is that going to happen? Would you have pushed for that?
Well, I'm pretty sure it won't happen. It strikes me as something absolutely should happen, but I'm fairly sure it won't. Look, I'm out, so I've got no influence on it. But it seems to me bizarre that Rishi Sunak is going to respond to the budget and then, I guess, no longer be on the front bench just a matter of days later. It would be an amazing opportunity for whoever he or she may be, the new leader of the Conservative Party, to get there in front of Keir Starmer and give him a really difficult time over what's clearly going to be a very difficult budget for everyone in the country, not least the Labour Party.
Benjamin, you're on the left, but as an observer, do you identify Reform UK as the true Conservatives now?
Well, I think the Conservatives have spent all summer, if anyone's been paying attention, and I'm not sure they have, but they keep talking about immigration. And actually, I'll compliment Sir Jake with saying this in an ad break. But if they're saying that you need someone that's going to be tough on immigration, well, then that's going to send people over to Reform rather than to the Conservatives. And I think that they're then trying to be a right-wing party rather than a centre-right party, which is the only position they've ever won from. However, I think, Reform doesn't have the organisation still. I'm not convinced it has the discipline. But if you look at those red wall seats, about 80 of them, they came second to Labour. So I think what you're seeing, and Sir John Curtis said this over the weekend, is that the death of the two-party system is what the last election revealed. And I think it makes it a really complicated job for whoever's going to be Tory leader. Now, I would disagree with what's just been said, because I actually think they should have a long leadership election as they are, because, look, it doesn't matter what political points you score at this point in a 5-year parliament. It's frankly irrelevant. It's not going to change the result at the next general election. What might change it is if they have a serious conversation about what the Tory party means. But they haven't had that.
Labour are lucky. They don't have the equivalent of Reform biting at their ankles, do they? Do you think the Tories are in denial?
Yes, I do. And I think that they've got to stop talking about reform. Kemi Badenoch today said Reform aren't real Conservatives. Nobody thought they were. And she said they're not serious people. Stop talking about them. Stop looking to them.
Making them important.
Yes, fix your own party first and leave them alone. Stop criticising them because it makes you look weak. Makes Reform look like a threat, and the Tories think they're a threat. I mean, you asked a question before about, would Maggie Thatcher go to Reform if she was alive today? And I don't believe she would, because I believe the Tories wouldn't be in the mess they're in today if Margaret Thatcher...
So she wouldn't have let the Tories sort of drift into
She would not have allowed the infighting that has destroyed the party. The infighting that is still happening today and has been happening over the past 2 days with Jenrick and Badenoch. And Badenoch was saying she's been misinterpreted, misquoted, all the rest of it, by Jenrick's crew. So, I think Thatcher would not have let all these factions split within the Tory
party. And if a young Margaret Thatcher, aged 22, was stuffing envelopes now, would she be stuffing them for the Conservatives or Reform?
Or she'd be stuffing them for the Conservatives. She was about as true Conservative.
Even this rather woke
for a start, I think she'd probably be sending emails these days. Even the Conservative Party's moved on.
She wouldn't have liked sort of vegan, plant-based, sort of woke Tory Party 2.0, would she?
Well, I think what Margaret Thatcher did when she came into power, and the Conservative Party was actually a much more centrist party than it was under her leadership. She came in and said, actually, I don't think this party's right. I think Britain wants something different. And as our first female Prime Minister, she transformed the Conservative Party and Britain in her own image.
And it took her about 5 years to fix the Tory
didn't
party,
it? So I think that's but it's not right to compare what the Conservative Party was like while she was Prime Minister or as she stopped being Prime Minister. It's much better to say, you had a party, frankly, in a mess, reeling from a series of bad election results, and an amazing leader came in and transformed it and, transformed Britain. And that can happen again. That can happen again.
What you don't have now, Jake, is a Thatcher in the wings to come. Because none of those four...
But no one knew Margaret Thatcher would be the Margaret Thatcher that she was until she became leader.
This is clearly heating up. So what we're going to do, we're going to come straight back to this because Benjamin feels strongly about it. Would Margaret Thatcher now vote Reform UK? Is that the party that she'd rather lead? But Patrick is at the Tory party conference. He is in Birmingham. Patrick, who have you got for us?
Oh my gosh, this is absolutely amazing, everybody. Just firstly, have a little look at this here. Look at this wonderful crowd. Now, I'm going to try something. I'm not sure this is going to work, but let's give it a go. Hello, everybody. Can we get on 3? GB News. 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. Back to dancing. There we go. Now, the wonderful Jacob Rees-Mogg is right here. Here he is. Come on, Jacob. How are you?
all the better for seeing you.
Okay, now, how do you think the conference is going so far?
The best question I had today was from somebody who watches GB News to see me as your warm-up act. So Tory members have their right order of priorities, and I'm glad to be helping the warm-up as your warm-up act again today.
That's brilliant. Who do you think is the favourite for the leadership now?
Very hard to say. I think Robert Jenrick and Kemi have made the most noise so far, but if you watch, Tom and James Cleverly are really working the conference hard.
So you think there's a good forward to choose from. Jacob, thank you. Come with me through the conference here, through the party. And James Heal is supping on something nice. What's your tipple, James?
Quite a lager, anything I can get in this place. Honestly, first grab I got, I grabbed it.
How does the GB News party rank compared to the Sky News party that's going on next door at the same time?
Well, I haven't been there yet, so I'll get a full
It says it all, James. It says it all. Now, look, you're a political hack.
Yep.
You are so, on the pulse. You just perform open heart surgery in the House of Commons every single day. Who's going to win the Tory leadership race?
Right now, I reckon the favourite's Robert Jenrick.
Okay, why?
I think that he's managed to lock down the right of the vote, and he's going to get the 40 MPs necessary to advance the final two.
Fantastic. Now, I'm just going to whiz us over. I've got time for one more. This is David Mad Dog Maddox, who was formerly at the Express, who's now at the Independent. Here he is. Now, you were double parked the last time I saw you, but you've seen off one of them. How's the GB News party going for you so far?
It's great, it's great. It's like a great reunion after the election disaster, really, but no, it's good to see everybody here. Best party in town.
Gavin, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
I'm very well. How are you finding conference so far?
Well, I think there's an incredibly positive atmosphere. I think when people look at me, 4 amazing leadership contestants, they realise that every single one of those 4 are better than Keir Starmer.
They say that you're the power behind the throne. You know, you are the kind of, almost, if you don't mind me saying this, the pseudo-Machiavellian figure. So come on, whose strings are you pulling this time?
You're all just very cynical sometimes, and you just want to make sure that the very best person rises to the top, takes a battle to Labour, make sure that there's a strong Conservative voice in Parliament.
Oh, God, who's going to win? Come on, who's going to win?
Whoever the members vote for. I mean, you are one of the very best political journalists anywhere in the country, and you are able to give your viewers the best lowdown on this.
I hope you have fun at the GB News party, and flattery will get you everywhere. So thank you very much. All right, take care. It's back to you.
There you go. What a scoop, Patrick. There you go. Former Education Secretary Gavin Williamson pretty much sitting on the fence in terms of who leads the party next. More excitement from conference. Lots to get through. Don't go anywhere.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. The next 24 hours stays damp and blustery in the east, but it does dry up elsewhere. Brighter skies coming along in the west later on Tuesday. Finally, a drier period to give us all a respite from all the rain, but it is going to take its time as this low slowly clears eastwards. It's still going to bring further rain to northern England, into parts of the Midlands overnight, East Anglia, as well as North Wales. Now, that rain does turn more showery in the west, the north and the northwest, seeing plenty of clear spells overnight under those clear skies. Temperatures falling into the single figures. But it's blustery elsewhere as we start off Tuesday, and there's certainly more rain to come across parts of East Midlands into East Anglia and down that North Sea coast. Now, we've got a few showers across Aberdeenshire into the Great Glen, but otherwise plenty of bright weather across much of northern and western Scotland. Northern Ireland, a lovely start to the day. Blue skies here, just 1 or 2 mist patches. Likewise for northwest England, but for Wales and the southwest, areas of cloud floating about and a few showers. Nevertheless, it's the eastern side of England where we continue to see a strong wind, gales for some exposed North Sea coasts and further spells of rain. The rain tending to become lighter through the day, but it's going to stay feeling miserable, I think, under that wet weather, and with a lot of low cloud along with the brisk breeze. Temperatures of 12 or 13 Celsius in the east, whilst further west where we do get some sunshine, 15 to 17 degrees. Now into Wednesday, there'll be yet more showers coming in on a northeasterly breeze across parts of East Anglia into the southeast. But elsewhere, much brighter skies. Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, West Wales and the southwest, seeing plenty of sunshine. Those sunny skies transfer east through Thursday and into Friday. So a few days at least of drier and brighter weather.
This Sunday, join me, Camilla Tominey, for an exclusive interview with one of the most controversial, influential and unique political figures of our time. Boris Johnson will be in studio discussing his new memoir, Unleashed, the gripping story of how he dealt with plotting politicians, problematic princes and a pandemic. From Boris bikes to Brexit and everything else in between. This Sunday at 9:30am, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30am.
Only on GB News.
I'm Isabel Webster. Thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
OK, folks, it's 10:34. Let's have a look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. And we start with the Metro. Strictly abuse report revealed at last vindicated. Actress Amanda Abingdon has told of her relief after a 9-month investigation by the BBC agreed that she was bullied by Strictly Dance professional Giovanni Pernice. Sure, that's a made-up name, by the way. The newspaper now, Post Office second IT scandal linked to wrongful convictions. The Daily Telegraph, Netanyahu warns Iran, you are in our sights. James Cleverly, Tories were wrong to say that we could stop the boats. The Conservatives should never have promised to stop the boats. The former Home Secretary told the fringe event at the Tory party conference, I think the phrase stop the boats was an error. Criticising the pledge, Cleverly, who's running to be next Tory leader, said it distilled a very, very complicated and challenging problem into a soundbite. Independent, Starmer forces top civil servant out of office. The Cabinet Secretary Simon Case has announced that he will stand down at the end of this year on health grounds, but only after senior ministers revealed that they had told Sir Keir Starmer he should be sacked. Daily Mail. Middle East on brink. World holds breath as Israel set to invade Lebanon. Guardian. Israel has begun ground attacks on Hezbollah inside Lebanon, says US. Also, PM urged to help energy users as price cap rises. And The Sun. Strictly results are in. I've won. Amanda Joy at BBC Apology. Now she will sue. And Giovanni is cleared of violence in fudged report, in which, in my view, it looks like there are no real winners. Certainly not the BBC. Let's have a look at some of those stories. Benjamin Butterworth, do you think that James Cleverly is right, that the Conservatives should not have used the expression stop the boats pre-election?
Well, based on the result they got in the election, I'd say, yeah, the evidence is pretty clear on that. They managed to stop the votes, not stop the boats. The thing is, expectation management, I think, is one of the hardest things about being a politician and about being in government. And if you're promising something that quite obviously was very difficult, if not impossible, to deliver, then you are only going to trip yourself up. Rishi Sunak had those 5 pledges. I think inflation one he hit. I'm not sure if he hit any of the others. Yeah. And so, yeah, clearly it was a mistake. And I think, the Labour government's been a bit wiser. For example, it didn't offer a number of immigrants that could come over in a year, because you'd seen repeated Tory leaders say that and then fail. And it's,
But they said, Benjamin, they had a plan to stop the boats, a cast-iron plan to stop the boats. They put into operation this security force, which the Tories already had in force, that was working, and that didn't work. They can't get a person to head that force, so they've done absolutely nothing. And we hear, remember, one of the other pre-election promises was that they weren't going to have migrants in hotels anymore. Now we discover that migrants will continue to be housed in hotels for up to 3 years because the asylum backlog will take longer to deal with than Labour expected. Hello, we knew it couldn't be dealt with.
We knew it. We said it all along. Jake, briefly, if you can, do you think that the next Tory leader should stop using the expression stop the boats?
Well, I think Rishi's 5 pledges was just really bad politics. On the day he announced them, I read them and just thought, you've just written your own, suicide note politically, because he pledged to do all sorts of stuff that he couldn't control, like reduce NHS waiting times, to stop the boats, to reduce inflation, which Ben correctly says he did do. I inquire whether it was him or the Bank of England. I'm sure that, politicians like to take credit for it. And, the golden rule in politics is you only promise you're going to do something when you know you can actually achieve it or you have some control over it. And let's not forget, as he set himself a one-year timetable, at the end of that speech, which I read over and over again because I couldn't believe that, frankly, he'd done something so stupid. He finished it with saying, "Judge me by what I do. I will never make a promise I can't keep." And then I looked at the list and thought, there's 4 things on there that you probably can't keep. Why have you promised to do them? It was just very dumb, and I think Cleverly's right to ditch it.
All right, interesting stuff. Well, listen, folks, let's head back to Tory party conference. Patrick is at the GB News party in Birmingham at a very nice hostelry, which is buzzing right now. Patrick, what's happening?
Absolutely, this is the definition of buzzing. Anyone who's anyone is here. The Sky News party is going on at the same time. No one's there. We've got a queue of about 400 people outside. Well, let's be honest, we're not actually enforcing a particularly strong border, so there we go. However, I am joined today by some fantastic people, and one of them is Lord Ranger. How are you?
Very well. I'm very pleased to be here tonight, Patrick. This is the party to be at the party conference.
Exactly. So you are, really desperately hoping that the Tories get this right now. You think if you get it right, this could be a one-term Labour government?
Well, look, we've seen the government now in charge for a while, and they've had challenges. That's the price of being in power. What we have to do is make sure that we get the right leadership, the right opposition, and the right proposition to the country to say the Conservative Party deserves your vote at the next election.
Yeah, indeed. Any idea who that person is for you?
Look, I have to be absolutely honest. A lot of the leadership candidates are friends of mine. I've been in the party a long time, and what I'm really pleased about is the calibre of our leadership candidates, whether it's Tom, whether it's James, whether it's Kemi, or whether it's Robert. These are all quality candidates, each one who could be leader of the Conservative Party or Prime Minister. And regardless of that, they'll be great in a cabinet as well. So what the public should take away from this, which, let's be honest, it's a conversation with the Conservative Party, is that there's real strength and quality of a next generation of Conservative politicians.
And everyone here is upbeat, you're having a good time, everyone's having a good time. Now, I'm aware that you've got a train to catch. Yeah. Thank you for hanging around for us. You take care. If you follow me, I'll move it on here because I know a lot of our GB News viewers and listeners like law and order. And here is the wonderful Donna Jones, who's, of course, the PCC for Hampshire, is that right?
And the Isle of Wight.
And the Isle of Wight, lest we forget the Isle of Wight. Now, I know we were talking a bit earlier. You've been quite surprised at what a bad job Keir Starmer has done already, haven't you, I think?
Well, look, most governments get that honeymoon period. This has been an absolute car crash for Labour, and actually it's made the Conservative Party conference quite buoyant. We need the government to be effective, but what has happened with the Labour Party, I think it's the sheer hypocrisy that your viewers are going to absolutely see. The £3,000 on spectacles, talking about sausages rather than hostages, talking thousands of pounds of football tickets, clothing. It's been a disgrace, and of course, that's without even mentioning Sue Gray and the fact that she single-handedly is now becoming a story in her own right.
Oh, well, there we go. Right, now, just before I send it back to us, let's back up here, because I want to get back on stage, and if you could join me, Uche, just to give a view of the sheer scale of what we're dealing with here at the GB News party. It really is the place to be. If you're not here, you're missing out, Mark.
I've got to say, looks like you're having a whale of a time there, Patrick. Keep the party going. I'm sure there'll be some tunes. Maybe people doing shots, a yard of ale. It's all happening at the GB News party at Tory party conference. We'll go back to Patrick very shortly. Plus, bombshell news for the BBC. They're about to be sued by one of the stars of Strictly Come Dancing. That's right, a major headache for the BBC. This after having to cancel Top Gear after nearly killing a famous cricketer, and of course the Hugh Edwards scandal as well. So more bad headlines for the BBC, plus more front pages. Don't go anywhere.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Founded in 1990 in Knightsbridge in London, the Beverly Hills Bakery offers some of the finest American baked goods in the United Kingdom. Beverly Hills Bakery has delivered gifts to all the UK Prime Ministers of the last 20 years, with, I think, the exception of Sir Keir Starmer so far, and provided gifts for the royal family and for royal births. As we near the 35th anniversary of the bakery, I'm joined by the owner and head pastry chef, Rosa de Souza, and Manuel de Souza, who is the director of the Beverly Hills Bakery. How marvellous to you both. Welcome to GB News.
Thank you for inviting us.
So, why has this formula worked? Why did London need a Beverly Hills bakery?
What we do is we're a bakery, but underlying it's actually a gifting experience.
Right.
So this is an alternative to flowers. So in terms of concept, that has maintained its originality despite going on for 35 years. And in fact, what I do is I often ask myself, why is it going strong? To remind myself to focus on those things that we need to focus on.
So instead of sending a bunch of flowers, you send a beautiful box of cakes like that, or affection like that, complete with bunnies and so on.
Exactly. So you have the concept on the one hand, but you also need the quality of product that goes inside. And I think that's where Beverly Hills Bakery has got a great product.
And it's where Rosa comes in, isn't it?
Yes.
So when did you start to bake? Did you start to bake domestically in your home, and did it spread from there?
We started from home. My mother's baking, where we didn't have all the stoves and things like that. We baked on the charcoal, you know, like figurines.
Yes.
And we started baking. I learned from my mother the baking.
GB News, the People's Channel.
OK, let's have a look at some more front pages. And we have the Daily Mirror. Here's what they lead with. BBC apology to Amanda. Strictly the verdict. The BBC has apologised to Amanda Abingdon over Giovanni Panice's behaviour in the Strictly bullying row. Also, the Daily Star, if that's the next paper that we've got. Thank you very much, Ark. Troubling news from the Daily Star's fifth favourite boffin in the whole world. The Matrix is real and the Bible proves it. Proof that we're all living in a Matrix-style, AI-generated, simulated world has been found in the Bible, according to an actual boffin at an actual university. Well, if we are living in some kind of AI-generated universe, I think they could improve the software, couldn't they? How about the Times now? Warning to Iran as Israeli forces gear up to invade Lebanon. And migrants to be stuck in hotels for 3 years. Migrants will continue to be housed in hotels for up to 3 years because the asylum backlog will take much longer to clear than Labour expected. There are nearly 30,000 migrants living in more than 250 hotels at a cost of £4.2 million a day. Kemi Badenoch on maternity row. I know how Thatcher felt. But let me take you up to speed on a developing story, and it's really bad news for the BBC because the Sun newspaper are reporting that Amanda Abingdon, of course, an actress famous for that role in Sherlock, among other TV hits, is to sue the BBC for loss of earnings and damages after the corporation was forced to apologise to her over her experience on Strictly Come Dancing. So, Carol Malone, this is really bad news for the BBC. They've had to cancel Top Gear because Freddie Flintoff almost died, and former star of Top Gear, Chris Harris, has said that he warned the BBC that the stunts on Top Gear were dangerous. Then that accident happened. We've got the complete disaster around Hugh Edwards, and now this. Yeah.
And I read today that ratings on Strictly are plummeting as we speak. You know, people aren't bothering to tune into the show. But, you know, for Amanda Abingdon, this has been a long, hard road for her. You know, she's had, you know, the investigation upheld 6 of her 17 complaints, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot, because what the complaints they upheld were verbal bullying and harassment. But apart from that, she's had to face terrible abuse and threats on social media for the simple reason that she complained. She's had rape threats. She's had murder threats. She had to stop working. She didn't work for months and months and months. The stress of this whole thing, the BBC have dragged their feet for months over this. Maybe they hoped it was going to go away. You know, and for Giovanni to, you know, we're supposed to be grateful that he didn't physically abuse her. You know, they're saying he was cleared of physical abuse. Well, so he should be. There shouldn't have been any question of that. But it's been a terrible thing for her. And I think the BBC they're always slow to react to crises. They should have nipped this in the bud at the very start. An investigation doesn't have to take the number of months that this one has. And, you know, who knows how much this is going to affect her acting career as well. You know, I mean, she was labelled as mad and unstable on social media. So this will affect her proper job, if you like. And I feel very sorry for her. And even now there are people still abusing her over this. But, you know, this was a show she went on in good faith to dance. And that didn't happen.
No, it's definitely. Benjamin, do you think the franchise is in trouble now, Strictly?
First of all, I'm pretty sure I watched Top Gear on Sunday evening, so I don't think it's been cancelled.
I think that's the last series.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, they're certainly not making any more. They make it abroad, but not here in the UK.
I also watched Strictly just before, and I have to say it's a great series, because what they've done is they've picked a load of celebs that are quite funny and quite light-hearted, and it's the most amusing series of Strictly I've ever seen, because they know how much this damaged them. They know the accusations of the professionals being inappropriate, being aggressive, taking it too seriously, was ruining the format. I admire Amanda Abingdon so much for having the tenacity to expose this. Now, if you read the story, it says that she's not started suing them. She's just considering her options. But if she does, it will be for what Carol just said, for the loss of earnings and for the mental health damage and the damage to her well-being that she's experienced.
It's interesting, Ben. She said today she had been asked into the BBC for a conversation, and that will probably be about settling out of court. If they think she's going to sue, they're probably going to offer her something. I don't know what. But she said
there's no defence, is there? There's no defence. Their own investigation has found that all of the allegations that Amanda Abingdon correctly made are true, or not quite all of them, but lots of them anyway. So there's no defence. But actually, more widely, and in relation to the BBC, it's a media organisation. Why is it so bad at its own communications there? Why does it not know how to deal with crises like the Strictly crisis, like the Hugh Edwards crisis? I mean, it's an absolute disgrace.
Is it because they
kept paying him
Do they
his salary?
the wagons to protect their own reputation?
Yes, they do.
I think so. It's a siege mentality, isn't it?
Right.
So they are in big trouble. This is one of many things that have hit them, and I think people are turning.
All right, well, look, Sir Jake, I hate to interrupt you because Patrick is in Birmingham at Tory Party conference with a couple of VIPs.
Absolutely, yes. Well, I'm still on the old non-alcoholic beer. Firstly, look at the nosh that we are serving here. That is top drawer. Are you enjoying it?
Yes, it's lovely.
Fantastic. Now, here we go. So, this is a fan favourite at GB News. It's Jonathan Gullis. Are you having a good time?
I'm having a good time. I've stuffed my face before you got me on camera, so I don't have an Ed Miliband bacon sandwich moment, thank God.
Good, I saw you do that. You're going to have a heartburn all night. Are you enjoying the Tory Party conference? Do you think this could be a one-term Labour government?
I do believe it could be a one-term Labour government, as long as we select Robert Jenrick to be the leader of the Conservative Party.
OK, all right, so there you go. That's strong stuff. Just come with me here, because I've got one more person to get to. This is Steve Tuckwell, who you will remember won Boris Johnson's old seat of Uxbridge and then sadly lost it. Steve, come here. I'm Rob Halford. Can we get over there? Hello, mate. How are you?
Hold that for you.
That if you want.
I'll hold it for you.
Right. How are you going to win back Boris's old seat of Uxbridge?
Well, it's going to be incredibly hard work, but, I'm there, I'm in the community, I'm embedded in the community, and I'm going to take the seat back that I lost to a wafer-thin majority.
What leader helps you win it?
Well, we've got 4 great leaders that are in the mix. I'm looking forward to hearing what they've got to say over the next sort of couple of days. And whoever it's going to be, they are going to be the person that's going to unite this great party. So we are going to take back, not just Uxbridge and South Ruislip, but also take back the government.
OK, all right. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to take that back off you, if that's all right. It's non-alcoholic anyway, I'm afraid, so you wouldn't have had much fun with it. But look, as you can see, it's been a fantastic. Chopper, Christopher Hope is here with us. There you go.
Hello, Patrick.
Robert
Jerring's over there, so,
Where is he?
He's right at the back.
I've only got 1 minute, unfortunately, so I'm not going to be able to meet him. But what's he said to you?
He's happy to be here, Patrick. What do you expect a party? I mean, he's not going to say anything. He's not going to give us the budget in his first term as Prime Minister, is he? No, but he's excited to be here. And it's wild. I mean, it's the classic GB News party, which we're lucky to be at, aren't we?
We have absolutely the most fun ever. Now, just to finish us off, the band are about to take to the stage here. So they will be playing long into the night. And I would just like to thank all of the wonderful GB News viewers and listeners and all, of course, you for filling in for me, Mark, back in the studio. So I'll throw it back to you. The night is young. Thank you.
Patrick, take care and be safe out there. Listen, Patrick, you smashed it in Birmingham. He's back tomorrow at 9. And, folks, we've got time for a couple of Greatest Britons. Who's your Greatest Briton?
Mine's Dame Maggie Smith, who died at the weekend, aged 89. One of the undisputed legends of film and theatre. Won 2 Oscars, had a career spanning 7 decades. Famous for both her dramatic roles, but she was a comedic genius as well.
Wonderful.
Had a fierce intellect, monumental talent, and didn't suffer fool's glee.
Just like you. How about you, Benjamin, briefly, if
My
you can?
Greatest Briton is Chris McCausland, who is the blind comic on Strictly Come Dancing. And the way he's been able to dance is incredible. He's actually quite good.
He is. He's a friend of mine. He's a brilliant comedian, and it turns out a bit of a great dancer. So let's hope he goes all the way. So, Jake, who's your greatest?
Well, finally, mine is British industry. We learnt the sad news today that Tata Steel is closing, and the last coal-fired power station closed. So I wanted to take the opportunity to pay tribute to all of those great Britons who have worked in our industries over the years and hopefully will continue to do so in the future.
Absolutely right. My thanks to Benjamin, Sir Jake,
You've got to choose a winner.
Lovely Carol. I'm going to give it to British industry. I've got to, because it's our only hope for the future. That's right. If we're going to have good public services, if we're going to have great schools, teachers, safety on the streets, we've got to pay for it somehow. How do we do that? National income.
Mine was the only one that's alive.
And Maggie Smith, hello, we're disputing that. We're calling
folks, listen, Patrick's back tomorrow at 9. I'll see you Friday at 8. Thanks to the team. I'll see you soon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. In the next 24 hours stays damp and blustery in the east, but it does dry up elsewhere. Brighter skies coming along in the west later on Tuesday. Finally, a drier period to give us all a respite from all the rain, but it is going to take its time as this low slowly clears. Eastwards, it's still going to bring further rain to northern England, into parts of the Midlands overnight, East Anglia, as well as North Wales. Now, that rain does turn more showery in the west, the north and the northwest, seeing plenty of clear spells overnight under those clear skies. Temperatures falling into the single figures. But it's blustery elsewhere as we start off Tuesday, and there's certainly more rain to come across parts of East Midlands into East Anglia and down that North Sea coast. Now, we've got a few showers across Aberdeenshire into the Great Glen, but otherwise plenty of bright weather across much of northern and western Scotland. Northern Ireland, a lovely start to the day. Blue skies here, just 1 or 2 mist patches. Likewise for northwest England, but for Wales and the southwest, areas of cloud floating about and a few showers. Nevertheless, it's the eastern side of England where we continue to see a strong wind, gales for some exposed North Sea coasts and further spells of rain. The rain tending to become lighter through the day, but it's going to stay feeling miserable, I think, under that wet weather, and with a lot of low cloud along with the brisk breeze. Temperatures of 12 or 13 Celsius in the east, whilst further west where we do get some sunshine, 15 to 17 degrees. Now into Wednesday, there'll be yet more showers coming in on a northeasterly breeze across parts of East Anglia into the southeast. But elsewhere, much brighter skies. Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, West Wales and the southwest, seeing plenty of sunshine. Those sunny skies transfer east through Thursday and into Friday. So a few days, at least, of drier and brighter weather.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win a whopping £36,000 cash in the Great British Giveaway. That's like having 3,000...
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Sleep Report 2024 is based on a comprehensive survey conducted all across the country, and the report found that over half the population, get this, falls short of the recommended 7+ hours of required sleep each night. And shockingly, 1 in 4 of us is getting 5 hours or less, and that includes you, doesn't it?
Yes, I'm very bad at sleep. 4 or 5, I'd say.
That's
a bit
awful.
like Maggie Thatcher. What would you get on average?
I'd say at least 6. 7 probably average.
That's probably not good. I think you probably need 8. Well, almost half of Brits rate their sleep quality as 5 out of 10 or lower?
Dr. Manesh Shah and Dr. Sita Shah joins us now to tell us all about the sleep and how Brits are struggling. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
First questions to you both. How many hours do you both get?
God, I think it varies. I try and hit that 7 hours of sleep.
Why are Brits so bad at getting sleep, especially in terms of hours? 4 or 5 hours for me, 6 hours for you. It's the same for everybody out there in the UK. We're just not going to bed early enough. Is it as simple as that? Or is it slightly more complicated?
Yeah, so I think the key is to establish a good routine. So waking up at the same time every day, making sure that you're going to sleep at the same time every day, and being quite sort of rigid and strict with yourself when it comes to those timings.
And also, it's not just the length of, I get, say, 7 hours, it's the quality, isn't it? You've got different phases of sleep.
Yeah.
Just explain those. Is it, as far as I remember, REM, deep sleep? Just tell us about that.
Correct, yeah. So, essentially, there's 4 stages to sleep. So there's stage 1 and stage 2, which are your lighter stages of sleep. And then stage 3 is your deeper sleep. And then you've got the stage 4, which is your REM. Which is a rapid eye movement stage. And it's the stage 3 and the REM sleep which is really, really important for restorative and regenerative sleep.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring. Not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, I'm Sophia Wensler with your headlines at 11 o'clock. The UK government has chartered a commercial flight out of Lebanon on Wednesday to assist British nationals wanting to leave the country. It comes as the Foreign Secretary has responded to reports that Israel is launching a potential ground assault on Lebanon, with troops reportedly positioned for an incursion. Meanwhile, Lebanese media are reporting heavy artillery fire in border towns in southern Lebanon, and Reuters is reporting Hezbollah has attacked Israel using a ballistic missile. It comes after the Lebanese Prime Minister said 1 million people have now been displaced as fighting continues. Mr. Lamy has spoken with his US counterpart, Antony Blinken, and reiterated the need for a ceasefire.
We both agreed the position that we had at the UN last week, that the best way forward is an immediate ceasefire. I have been urging since coming to office in July for British nationals to leave Lebanon. Notwithstanding that, of course, we've sent a rapid response team. 700 troops are in Cyprus. We will